Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission here is simple. We sift through the information you've shared to extract the crucial insights, giving you, well, a shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Exactly. And you, the learner, are looking for that deep understanding without getting lost in the weeds, right? Those aha moments that really stick.
Precisely. And today marks the exciting launch of Season 2 of our special series, MBA Candidate.
That's right. Over this season, we'll be diving into quite a diverse range of experiences and viewpoints. Some might even seem a bit, out of the ordinary.
But the goal is always to pull out those valuable nuggets relevant to that broader journey of learning and professional growth that MBA Candidate explores.
Absolutely. It's all about finding lessons, even in unexpected places.
And to kick things off, we're plunging into excerpts from a really unique book. It offers a no-holds-barred look at a specific time and culture within Wall Street.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
All right. Our narrator's first day was May 4th, 1987, at L.F. Rothschild. Picture this. A trading floor, just buzzing with about 70 ambitious young guys. They called themselves masters of the universe, apparently.
70 of them. Wow.
Yeah, and all intensely reading the Wall Street Journal.
You immediately get this sense of intense striving, don't you? Everyone there aiming high, laser focused on the market. It just screams pressure cooker.
And our narrator, he admits he desperately wanted to be one of them, feeling out of place in his cheap suit and shoes compared to their perceived status.
That contrast really highlights the aspiration, the drive.
Then Stephen Schwartz, the sales manager, 38 years old, made over $2 million the previous year, gets on the mic.
$2 million back then, that's huge.
He announces this strong opening in Tokyo futures, and instantly it's just go, go, go. Get on the phones, make deals, now.
That just perfectly illustrates the high-stakes, immediate result culture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Schwartz's income becomes this, instant benchmark driving everyone. It's about fast, big money.
Now, here's where things take a really sharp turn from, your typical first day.
Yeah.
The new boss sits our narrator down, and the conversation includes enthusiastic encouragement of self-love, his actual words.
Wait, what? Self-love?
Yeah, and then a surprisingly direct suggestion about using cocaine.
Seriously? To help with sales calls?
Exactly, to boost the calls. It completely shatters any idea of, normal office behavior.
It really does. The casual drug mention, the profanity.
Yeah.
It paints a picture of a culture just operating by totally different rules, driving sales above absolutely everything else, it seems.
It wasn't just pushing boundaries, it feels like erasing them entirely.
Yeah.
And the boss's parting wisdom that the narrator would one day look back and laugh, it's almost unbelievable.
But it hints at the wild ride ahead, right? Like this extreme environment was just accepted, maybe cynically, as part of the game.
Yeah, it suggests it was deeply ingrained.
It makes you wonder, what kind of system allows that kind of normalization? It wasn't just tolerated, it sounds like it was almost part of the strategy.
The initial social interactions are just as startling. Colleagues Mark and Luis jump right in.
Okay.
Luis hears it's the narrator's first day and jokes straight off that he'll soon be an alcoholic.
Wow, okay. Welcoming?
And then Mark casually offers him a martini on his first day.
A martini on day one. That casual acceptance of heavy drinking, even joking about it, says so much about the social fabric there. Intense pressure, maybe. Coping mechanisms becoming the norm.
Seems like it. Okay, let's jump forward a bit. We get this chaotic glimpse into his personal life.
Right. Things outside the office.
One morning, his second wife, Nadine, wakes him by throwing water on him. Apparently, he'd been talking in his sleep.
Oh, boy.
And what follows is just this bizarre argument, her accusations. He's totally disoriented, maybe from quaaludes, the text suggests.
So the professional chaos bleeds into the personal. The drugs hinting at the potential cost of this lifestyle, blurring those lines between ambition and, self-destruction.
And there's this housekeeper, Gwyn, described as being almost from another era, just adding to the weirdness.
Yeah, that detail stands out.
Then the situation just escalates. Nadine's behavior becomes really provocative, and the narrator is trying to diffuse this completely surreal situation.
It highlights the instability everywhere in his life, doesn't it? Extreme emotions, irrational behavior. Normal rules just don't apply at home or work. And he's trying to navigate both.
Shifting back to the professional side, we see Stratton Oakmont really take off.
Right, the firm he becomes famous for.
The first trading floor was busy, sure, but Stratton Oakmont was something else. Huge, like a football field or a classroom.
A classroom. Interesting analogy. Structured aggression, maybe?
Maybe. And the sound, this overwhelming roar of brokers just aggressively pitching investments over the phones, you can almost hear it.
That description really conveys the scale and intensity. A system built for maximum output, maximum pressure.
Their focus was on small capitalists and what the media called penny stocks. Though, interestingly, the narrator himself disputed that label.
Ah, that distinction is important. It suggests a tension between how they were seen savage bandoliers, as the press apparently called them, and how they saw themselves.
Definitely. A potential blind spot about the ethics, perhaps. Targeting small capitalists raises questions.
For sure. Profiting from whom and at what cost?
Then we get these anecdotes about the, let's call it unorthodox management style.
Okay, I'm braced.
There's Luco Max, apparently a senior guy who just peers into Danny Porsche, another key figure, for eating a fish on the trading floor.
Eat a fish, that's the trigger.
Apparently, just this extreme, totally unprofessional public outburst.
Wow, that suggests a culture where power plays and volatile behavior were just normal. A real lack of professionalism, maybe even fear-driven.
And then there's Danny's idea for a frankly bizarre game, shooting brokers who sold the most Madden stock with a nail gun.
You're kidding? A nail gun?
Nope. It sounds like dark comedy, but it points to this aggressive, maybe unhinged mindset at the top.
It's extreme. Talk about toxic team building. It really highlights a warped sense of competition and maybe humor.
Definitely warped. We also hear this weird story about Andy.
Go on.
Disappeared for 3 years after a bad haircut, supposedly. Then just reappears with a law degree he apparently cheated to get.
Okay, that's quite the journey. Bad haircut to fraudulent lawyer.
It adds another layer, right? Unusual characters, questionable paths to success. Seems like a theme.
Absolutely. A disregard for rules, finding unconventional, often unethical ways around things.
Okay, let's talk finance practices. The narrator draws this line between blue chips, stable companies, and the stocks Stratton dealt with, mostly $4 to $10 range.
Right, not the sub-dollar true penny stocks.
Exactly. And he felt they were unfairly targeted by regulations designed for those riskier firms.
That distinction is key to his whole defense, isn't it? Trying to avoid the stricter rules and bad reputation of the real penny stock market. It's strategic. Legitimizing.
But then there's the SEC's $22 million lawsuit. And his attitude towards regulators, he calls them clowns.
Total defiance. A belief that they were operating in a gray area the clowns didn't understand. Or maybe that they were just smarter.
That adversarial stance, that contempt, it's often a red flag, isn't it?
Definitely. Believing the rules don't apply to you, or you can outsmart them. Classic sign.
He even frames it like he found this lucrative middle ground in the market, like some earlier Wall Street pioneer.
Right.
And that the environment after the October '87 crash, plus the rise of the NASDAQ, created the perfect storm for Stratton's aggressive style.
That's the rationalization, framing it as astute business strategy, exploiting market conditions, not unethical behavior.
Right.
It's a common way to justify pushing boundaries.
So as the legal heat ramps up, the story goes international. Switzerland.
Ah, the classic move. Offshore.
We meet Jean-Jacques Sorel. The narrator's worried about secrecy, specifically what someone named Kaminsky knows.
Then Sorel.
Sorel basically reassures him with thinly veiled threats about ensuring Kaminsky stays quiet. Serious consequences implied.
Okay, so things are escalating. Offshore accounts, secrecy, implied threats. This is serious shielding now.
Then the talk turns to using trusted people nominees, or later called mice people with passports, and Roland Franks, the great forger.
A forger, to create documents.
Exactly. To obscure the money trail. It gets complicated. He even goes to London, meets his wife's aunt, Patricia. Their first meeting is apparently when he's overdosing.
Whoa. Talk about a dramatic introduction.
Right, and she ends up involved in his financial dealings.
So he's drawing more people in, creating these layers of obfuscation. And Patricia's intro story just highlights the chaotic, unusual relationships forming around him.
She even ends up holding a credit card for him.
Yeah.
And he has to spin this whole story to his wife, Nadine, to make it seem legit.
Just a constant web of deception, isn't it? In his business, in his personal life. That kind of thing is rarely sustainable.
Then we get the formal introduction of mice people used to move cash discreetly.
Money mules, basically.
Elliot Levine is the main one, and he's got his own issues, drug use, gambling addiction.
Sounds like a reliable choice.
Well, exactly. He even has this side scheme generating off-the-books cash through inflated charges at Perry Ellis.
So the narrator's relying on someone deeply unreliable and compromised themselves That just highlights the immense risks involved in these kinds of operations. A fragile network.
But Elliot owes the narrator money, so he feels kind of stuck with him. Needs him to pay it back.
Ah, the leverage.
He even considers using his wife's family as a backup plan for moving money. Thinks it's less risky.
Less risky. Involving family and potentially illegal stuff? That sounds like distorted judgment setting in, blurring more ethical lines out of desperation.
Then there's the meeting in Switzerland with Roland Franks, the great forger.
Right, the document guy.
The description is vivid, his appearance, the papada under his chin, constant smoking. His whole expertise is creating that convincing paper trail.
Franks is like the hidden infrastructure making it all possible, right? The plausible deniability guy. Enablers like him are crucial for this kind of financial crime.
And they discuss the ambiguity in U.S. financial laws. The narrator uses this, again, to justify his actions, just navigating poorly defined rules.
That's the deflection, isn't it? Exploiting loopholes versus breaking the law, shifting blame to the system.
The plan even involves using Aunt Patricia as the nominal account holder, even after she dies.
Wow. Using someone after their death,
Yeah.
that's a new level of manipulation. Shows how far the ethical erosion went.
Meanwhile, back in the U.S., the legal net starts to tighten. Special Agent Gregory Coleman is leading the initial investigation.
Described as under-resourced, right?
Yeah, and the U.S. Attorney's Office isn't that interested at first. The prosecutor assigned, Sean O'Shea, isn't painted as some crusader.
So maybe that initial lack of heat gave him a false sense of security. The resource issue highlights how tough these cases can be to build.
But then FBI Special Agent Barsini arrives. He sounds like quite a character, not your typical agent.
Yeah, the anecdote about the bank robber.
Right. It suggests maybe a different, more determined approach is coming, less predictable.
A potential game changer for the investigation.
The narrator also mentions getting insights from someone named Bo, who apparently assessed Coleman as being straight, not likely to plant evidence or lean too hard on associates.
Interesting. So he's aware of potential law enforcement tactics, but also maybe sees some integrity there. A strange sort of calculation.
Inside Stratton, though, the culture remains, well, chaotic. Danny Perosh's meetings sound bizarre.
Like the fish incident.
And another anecdote about Scott and Irv, plus the reaction when one broker comes out as gay publicly. It just sounds unprofessional, volatile, maybe hostile.
Yeah, those examples paint a picture of poor professionalism, questionable morals, potentially discriminatory. Not a healthy workplace.
Yet amidst all this, some employees were fiercely loyal. Janet's emotional reaction to possible changes, for example.
And the standing ovations for the narrator.
It's multiple times, even when things looked uncertain. It's complex. He must have had charisma, fostered some kind of strong bond.
Intense loyalty, even in a dysfunctional, unethical place. That suggests a powerful, if perhaps manipulative, leadership style. Connection built on shaky ground.
Throughout all this, his personal struggles are ongoing. The drug use quaalude, the phone booth that suggests just how far gone he could get.
It underscores that self-destructive path, right?
Yeah.
The drugs clearly impacting his judgment, his behavior. The phone booth thing sounds like hitting a low.
Even after a car accident, his lawyer's advice is telling.
How so?
Focuses on avoiding drug charges by claiming he took them after driving, not before.
Ah, legal maneuvering. Just another example of trying to dodge consequences, masking the reality of his addiction and behavior.
We also learn more about his relationship with Elliot Levine, the mouse.
Right, the unreliable guy.
Their first meeting was in the Bahamas, apparently drawn together by Elliot's crazy high-stakes gambling.
Sets the tone.
And then there's this wild bachelor party story where the narrator performs CPR on Elliot, who overdosed, vomiting involved.
Good grief. That just encapsulates the extreme chaos, the high-risk behavior, the lack of boundaries in his whole circle. Life and death stuff treated almost casually.
And showing his ruthless side, when he felt betrayed by someone named Kenny Green, he apparently hatched this plan to deliberately undermine Duke's securities.
So vengeful too, not just competitive, but actively seeking to destroy rivals. Cutthroat.
As things progress, the consequences really start piling up. Aunt Patricia dies.
Complicating the offshore accounts.
Quick time. And then Jean-Jacques Sorel, the Swiss banker, gets arrested in the U.S. Unrelated charges, but still another major problem.
The walls start closing in. External events, others' actions impacting his carefully built schemes. Things are unraveling.
But he keeps rationalizing the drugs, the lifestyle. Even when his son, Carter, faces serious health issues, heart surgery.
That's incredibly difficult to hear. It really shows the depth of the addiction, how impaired his judgment was, unable to prioritize his child's health over the addiction. Devastating.
He does make attempts at rehab eventually, attends AA meetings, initially because his wife pressured him.
Seems like external motivation, maybe not genuine desire yet.
His interactions there, like with the fat man anecdote, sound kind of detached, maybe self-serving, not really engaging with it.
Yeah, suggests a lack of real commitment to recovery at that stage.
And his time in a rehab facility, apparently marked by manipulation, faking recovery, even sexual misconduct.
Still trying to game the system, even in rehab. That shows a continued pattern, doesn't it? A lack of real remorse or willingness to change. Just surface-level stuff.
Finally, the inevitable happens, the downfall. Police raid his home, he's arrested.
The end of the road.
Though there's a 5-year gap mentioned between the start of legal proceedings and him actually going to prison.
Suggests a long, complex legal fight.
The whole thing concludes with his reflection on his past as Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. He acknowledges the wildness, the illegal behavior, that past feeling of being untouchable.
A moment of acknowledgement, at least. Whether it's deep remorse is maybe harder to say. But that label, Wolf of Wall Street, perfectly sums up the ruthless ambition and the ultimate crash.
So wrapping up this first deep dive for MBA Candidate Season 2, we've really journeyed through a world of just extreme ambition, highly unconventional ethics, and inevitably serious consequences.
And what's really insightful here for you, the learner, as you navigate your own MBA journey or professional path, is how this story, while extreme, illuminates some core aspects of business.
Like what specifically?
Well, that relentless drive for goals, how risk is managed or mismanaged, the impact of leadership, even negative leadership, and just the undeniable fallout from the choices people make. It's all there, writ large.
Absolutely. And a huge takeaway for me is that stark contrast between the outward signs of success, the money, the firm, and the inner reality, the addiction, the legal battles, the broken relationships.
It really hits home. Which brings us to a crucial question for you. Thinking about this extreme case, what are the ethical lines, the personal values, that will be your compass in your career?
Yeah, what are those potential pitfalls of ambition when it's completely unchecked? How do you navigate the pressures and complexities while holding on to your principles?
That's the core challenge, isn't it?
Definitely food for thought. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into a truly unique and often shocking perspective.
We hope it's given you valuable insights to consider as you continue your own MBA candidate journey.